Good evening. This is the Wednesday, April 16, 2014 meeting of the Finance Committee. It's 7 o'clock. Our agenda this evening, call to order. Is anyone out? We've got billions of people watching tonight, but no one's recording, so that's a good thing. Bill, put your camera down, please. Thank you. We're going to review and vote recommendations on the May 6, 2014 annual town meeting warrant articles. We've got a couple of transfers to review, and then we'll adjourn. So outside of the warrant articles, we should move fairly quickly tonight. Actually, what I think we'll do, let's take, there's a transfer for the DPW, so as we get to the DPW warrant articles, we can take care of Bill all at once here. So let's take care of that warrant article first. We have 1, 2, 3 transfers, all within the DPW facilities maintenance department and division. Our first transfer is from the skilled craftsman differential account. Present balance of just under $3,200. Amount requested $600 going to the maintenance supplies account. Reason for the transfer is there's a need for a phone for the facility maintenance and also restroom supplies. Bill?
Good evening. Bill Coyle, DPW Director. The first transfer is, as you mentioned, a need for a telephone. The facilities division, anytime they need to use a phone, they go to the office of the secretary and ask her to use her phone, and it's become pretty regular and also very inconvenient and disruptive. The phone itself, with the system that the town uses, I believe was $350 for this phone to be installed. And in addition to that is $250 to get us through the rest of the year for maintenance supplies for the restrooms.
Okay, so this is not a phone for the restroom, in case I was mumbling my words. Thank you.
I like to keep them working all the time, but,
yeah,
it's a good idea, though.
No, I'm not too sure about that. Do you have any questions on this? A motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you. Second transfer is from the skilled craftsman differential account. Our reduced balance is approximately $2,590. Amount requested $450 to the license account for continuing education for the construction supervisor's license.
This is actually going to cover two things. The CEUs, again, that the employees are required to obtain for the skilled craftsman. He has his construction supervisor's license, and it was $200 for the class that he would need. What he is requesting, and this is Caleb Moody, is that he would like to take the building inspector's license exam. There's a series of exams. It's $450. I see it as very beneficial for the facilities division, which mainly two people, Jimmy Beauregard and Caleb Moody. This would train him additionally, recognizing things that are important relative to inspections, through their construction operations. And there's also potential that in the need in inspection services, if it were to arise, to have Caleb fill in as a part-time building inspector. Again, currently we don't see that need, but the potential would be there that he could backfill if necessary or if needed by the town as well. So I think it does benefit us as a town to have him become a licensed building inspector. And again, that knowledge, I think, will be very beneficial for us within facilities as well.
Great, and I agree totally on that. I know we had a period of time, I think we were without an inspector, and we had to go outside, which I think we lost some, I'll call revenue opportunity anyways.
Right.
So that's a very good thing. Do we have any questions? Do we have a motion on this?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you. And our final transfer within the facilities maintenance division, also from the skilled craftsman differential account. And the amount requested is $181.35 for building maintenance. The highway garage door had a spring that broke and needed to be replaced. Quick question, did anyone get hurt? I've seen springs go.
Nobody got hurt. The repair for the door is actually $375, $375. I believe we have $193 remaining in the building maintenance account, so we would need an additional $181.35 to cover the total cost.
Okay. Obviously, there's available funds in the skilled craftsman differential. Was that just the best estimate as we were planning that budget last year, or did something happen that made that available?
I think what's happening with that is we had anticipated more of the DPW employees working within the facilities division to help out on projects from time to time. And there's a differential that they would get, I believe it's 75 cents an hour if they did work within facilities. The way it's been working out is Jimmy and Caleb have been doing 95% of the projects by themselves without the additional support. So that, that differential is less, I mean, the differential is less than anticipated. And I believe in the budget next year, I believe we adjusted that slightly we decreased that differential on that line item.
Okay. Yeah, if this third transfer goes, I guess that's a reduction of over $1,300 from that budget line item. Do we have any questions on this? A motion?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. All right, we'll hold off on the second set of transfers from the assessor's office. Thank you. Great. We're going to move right to the warrant articles. Sharon had sent me, or sent us, I think. I'm working off a draft from late last week. Several of these are normal articles. Some are normal articles that we actually defer to the petitioner, and I'll try to run through these, and I'm not going to address every single one, especially if we're normally deferring, like road acceptances. Articles 1 through 10, I believe, are normal articles that we deal with, and I will run through these just very quickly. The first article is our Finance Committee report that Charlie Baker makes me talk to, so hopefully that's going to be just a waste of 45 seconds or less. Right, Ed?
Or less.
Or less. Okay, that works for me. The second article, I believe, is, this is basically a vote to raise and appropriate transfer available funds. And this is actually sponsored by the Finance Committee. Now, our motions on this, Sharon, are to,
Recommend approval, not recommend, defer to the petitioner,
Or hold.
no position until town meeting.
okay, that's fine. So let's run through Articles 1 through 10 very quickly. I'd rather not take them collectively. I know the Board of Selectmen did, but I know we do go through them at least cursory, especially Articles 2 and 3 where there are articles. So on Article 2, do we have a motion on this?
Motion to recommend.
Second?
Okay, so our vote would be then to recommend approval?
Yeah.
Yes? Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
So 5, recommended approval. Thank you. So moved. The Article 3 would be our capital improvement budget for fiscal 15 that we approved last week or 2 weeks ago. Do we have a motion on this?
Motion to recommend approval.
Second?
Okay, all in favor of that? Aye. Okay, unanimous. Article 4, see if town meeting vote to authorize the town treasurer with the approval of Board of Selectmen to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of revenue to be received during the fiscal year. Do I have a motion on that?
Motion to recommend approval.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Article 5, see if town meeting will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to submit applications for any available state or federal funds, including Department of Elder Affairs formula grants, which funds the boards determined are beneficial to the town, and authorize the expenditure of any money received as a result of said applications. Do I have a motion?
Motion to recommend approval.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Article 6, see if town meeting will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell at public auction, or by sealed bid or at assessed value under special circumstances, any properties which the town might have acquired or may hereafter acquire through tax title foreclosure.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Once again, these are all very annual, normal articles, correct, Ed? Article 7, see if town meeting will vote to authorize the treasurer to enter into compensatory balance agreements during fiscal 2015 as permitted under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53F, or any other enabling statute. Do we have a motion?
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Article 8, see if town meeting vote to establish or renew revolving funds for various town and school programs in accordance with several Mass General laws. Do we have a motion on this?
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 9, see if town meeting will vote to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract or contracts with the Mass Department of Transportation for the construction and maintenance of public highways for the fiscal year. Do we have a motion?
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And Article 10, see if town meeting will vote to appropriate from available funds a sum of money, if it becomes available from the Mass DOT Chapter 90 bond issue proceeds to be used for the repair and maintenance of town roads in conformance with the Commonwealth General laws.
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Okay. Article 11, actually, Ed and I had a brief discussion on this after the Board of Selectmen's meeting. Might want to spend a minute on that. Article 11 is to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $500,000 to the other Post-Employment Benefits Liability Trust Fund, or OPEB. This is sponsored by the town manager. Before we vote on this, I had suggested to Ed to bring up sometime, I guess, in the next fiscal year. This article will probably stay on here for several years as we catch up with this. And it may be something we may want to consider to add to the operating budget, just as a matter of course. It will still allow both us and town meeting to vote and/or deliberate over it, but I think I'll just take one more article out of here. Not that we're trying to bury it, but we're recognizing this is a long-term thing we'll be funding for quite some time. So we had a conversation on that, and I want to make sure everyone was aware of that, and if anyone had any comments to that. Kim?
I think it's a really good idea. It's very much like our pension obligations that we appropriate in pensions and benefits, so.
And if I may, I think we've demonstrated, at least this will be the third year in a row, a level of $500,000, and we made it a permanent part of the budgetary process, knowing that we could support this level of funding going forward. So it makes all the sense in the world to make it part of the general fund operating budget, under the employee benefit portion of the budget, because it is a benefit that goes to not only our active employees, but our retirees as well.
Jim?
I was just going to ask the question, it's going to go under benefits?
That's what would my recommendation be.
Okay.
So we would try to work that in, and that would obviously create an explanation, because technically, we're adding 500 grand to what would fall under our 2.5 liability. So certainly an explanation to the town on this, but to me, it's no different than roadway improvement, which we've made a very long-term commitment to catch up on, and we've moved into the operating budget also. So one less thing for us to talk about in mid-April. And once again, I don't think we're trying to bury this from town meeting or anyone. That still can be brought up, but it's just further recognizing and making part of our operating budget. Article 11, do we have a motion on this?
Motion to recommend?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Article 12, see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $124,457.23 from Medicaid receipts within the general fund revenues to the Auburn School Department operating budget for fiscal year 2015 to fund supplies and medical, therapeutic, and educational services for significantly disabled special needs students, as well as tuition and transportation to and from outside placements or within the district of special needs students. Actually, a normal article, we usually don't have a number in there by this time, so. And they've been pretty responsible with that. I know Chris Teroyan usually asks about the accounting behind that, if things have been kept up to date. Do you have any comment on that, Ed?
No, I think this level of funding is level to what has been appropriated in the current fiscal year.
Yep.
That was amended at the fall town meeting by an additional value that the school department is confident that they're going to get. We have every reason to believe that this level of funding will be received by the town in FY15.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a motion on this?
Can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
yeah, sure. Kim?
Ed, if we did not receive 124,000, this would be reduced to whatever? We wouldn't have that obligation because it is receipts from Medicaid receipts.
Just like estimated receipts, we project based upon prior actuals. This, in essence, we're doing the same thing. If in fact we receive less than 124, town meeting has appropriated 124, they can spend 124, even though the revenue is not. If it's shy of that, then we take the hit. But we would adjust it in a subsequent year to reflect that reduction, so.
Okay.
Have we ever done that?
There was one year where we didn't meet it only because there was a delay in payment. The following year, we received more than what was appropriated. And I think that came out when Chris was, when he brought that up
Right.
a couple of years ago.
Okay. Ian?
No, no
All set?
question. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a motion on this?
Motion to recommend?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you. Article 13, see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $7,118.87, which is the interest earned by the Auburn High School Gymnasium Health and Recreation Trust Fund to offset school department costs at Auburn High School in support of community health and recreation activities at the Auburn High School gym and related facilities, sponsored by the Auburn School Committee. Once again, a normal article. This is just interest earned, right? Which is part of our agreement that would go into their fund. Any questions? Do a motion, please?
Motion to recommend?
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Okay, Article 14, 15, 16, and 17 are all, I've got it noted down as we're basically repurposing school CIP for school CIP needs that are now current. Does that cover it enough?
These are bond proceeds that are available, that were voted by town meeting for a particular purpose, which is being amended for the purposes of rehabbing the existing middle school.
Okay. These are all sponsored by the school committee. I don't see a need to be reading each one of these off completely. I believe it was it 1.8 million of funds moving around with a zero impact
Correct.
is really the simple summary of this. I will open it up to questions. I know we're part of meetings with the school and board of selectmen to discuss this, which seemed like a pretty tidy plan based on some, I'll call it a loose management of CIP over a few years. Any questions? Then do I have a motion? This would be on Articles 14, 15, 16, and 17.
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you very much. Article 18, see if town meeting will vote to accept Section 4 of Chapter 73 of the Acts of 1986 and all subsequent amendments, thereby increasing the exemption values by 100% for Clause 17D, 22, 22A, 22E, 37A, and 41C, real estate tax exemptions for qualifying seniors of low-income and disabled veterans for fiscal 2015. Ed, I believe you said the impact on this was?
For every increase of levy equal to 1%, it's about $425. $424.18.
424, okay.
So right now, we're roughly 1.7%, so it would be less than $800. And that would come out of the overlay, which we have, so it'd be
Right.
no impact on the general fund operating budget.
And we've seen this before.
This is a standard article,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
Motion to recommend?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you. Article 19, see if town meeting will vote to amend CIP Article 3 of the May 1, 2012 annual town meeting as follows. Delete 24,000 for carpet, just changing carpet and basically adding 24,000 for parking lot. Is this being pulled, Ed?
No.
This is going forward then?
Yes.
Okay, I know there was some discussion on that. Basically, the police chief is requesting a repurposing for, I think, replacing carpeting and some other things, and 24,000 in parking lot repair. Any questions on this? Kim?
Was the parking lot done 13 years ago when this building was built?
I believe so, yes.
So why are we spending $24,000 13 years later?
There's maybe Bill can answer, he's taking a look at it,
DPW
so.
chief, Bill.
Yeah,
Bill Coyle.
I'll try to answer that. The chief had called me to take a look at his parking lot, and it was constructed about 13 years ago. Typically, you can get 20 years out of any roadway construction or parking lot before you have to reconstruct it. What this is for is actually just to patch a couple larger areas where he does have some failure in the pavement, and then overlay the existing surface. So it's not reconstructing the existing, it's more of an overlay to extend the life of that parking lot. So if you wait the 20 years to a point where it needs to be reconstructed, you would be probably looking at more like 60,000. So it's more of a maintenance activity.
Kim, yeah, sure.
Through you, Bill, are you recommending this to us?
I would recommend it. We've actually gone out just to get some quotes to find out what the number is, and we're currently at about 18,750. We do have one around 24,000. We have to review the quotes, so there's a good possibility that it'll come in under the 24. But I would recommend it because I think it's a good approach. It's similar to the roads, trying to keep your good roads good. You don't like to see them fail to a point where you need to reconstruct it because it ends up costing you a lot more in the long run. So I think it's actually a good use to extend the life of that pavement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ed?
Bill, is on the 24,000 for the carpet, is that the room that had the burst pipe during the winter?
I believe that is what happened, yes.
So that was covered through insurance proceeds, so the carpet is recently replaced, so he's able to amend it.
Good question. I was wondering what that would be for. Jim? Sure.
Bill, just before you sit down, the 24,000, is that going to, are they gonna dig up the whole lot and
No, it's just, there's one area, I believe it's around 50 by 24, when you first go in, it's cracked, alligator cracking, we call it. That has to be excavated out, otherwise it'll just continue to fail. And that's the only portion. Then after that, the lot will just be an overlay, an 1.5-inch overlay over the whole lot. We'll reuse the same berm, will stay there. You'll lose a little bit of reveal on the side, but I think it should be fine. Again, it's just more of a maintenance process to extend the life.
Is this the lower lot?
Lower lot, we extended the upper lot, I believe, 1 or 2 years ago now. And I believe that was somewhere in around 60,000 for that extension. So you could see, the area that we extended was much smaller than this. That was 60,000. This is going to be probably closer to 19,000 to overlay it. And then hopefully we won't be back there again for at least another, 15 to 20 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No.
And I don't believe we've touched that lower lot with any kind of repairs since we brought that on. Okay, do we have a motion on this?
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you. Article 20, see if town meeting will vote to amend CIP Program Article 3 of the May 1, 2012 annual town meeting as follows. The balance of $4,808.75 for zero-turn mower in the DPW Parks Division, capital budget in the balance of $3,653 for parks fence in the DPW Parks Division capital budget for a total of $8,461.75 to stand-up mower or anything relative thereto. DPW Chief Coyle, glad you've come in this evening. Just give us a heads up on this repurpose.
This would be to replace an existing stand-up mower, which is about 15 years old.
And if I'm reading correctly, we basically, our estimates on some of these other pieces of equipment, we had available balances, is that?
Yeah, we had 4,800, let me just look at the balance of 4,800, and also the 3,653 was funds remaining from the, I believe it was the lower Lemansky field. We had the entire fence replaced, so there was a balance of funds remaining, so we'd repurpose that as well.
So that came in under budget, but it was completed, so.
That was completed,
Okay.
correct.
Did that zero-turn mower, the initial one, did that actually get purchased, or
Yes, it did.
it did? Okay. All right. Any
Motion to
questions?
recommend.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Articles 21 and 24, Ed, can you fill us in on, are they like articles, or have things been,
Like articles, the ones by citizens petition without a value.
yeah,
I think the Veterans Advisory Committee is having some discussions with those individuals who sought the petition to appropriate some money for the Purple Heart Monument. My recommendation would be to defer to the petitioner because they may decide to postpone one of these and collectively support one or the other.
okay. I'll accept a motion to put on hold for now anyways, both Articles 21 and 24. I believe the intent is the same on this. I know they're working out some things. I'm not sure what the board ended up voting on. Did they vote on one or not the other, Sharon?
They voted to defer on both of them.
But we're going to address it anyway, so I'd rather just put it on hold. It's a dollar, this is a
Motion to
dollar figure.
hold till town meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. So that was Articles 21 and 24. Article 22, to see if town meeting will vote to establish a revolving fund for the Department of Development and Inspectional Services, Public Health, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, 53E and a half, for the purpose of maintaining funding for compost bins to be sold to residents with expenditures not to exceed $5,000. We've Adam Burney here. Adam, I know you'd given a somewhat, almost brief explanation to the Board of Selectmen. I'm sure you can be just as concise with us.
I hope so.
Me
The Solid Waste Committee sought and was granted a grant of seed money from the DEP to purchase these compost bins for residents. They have made the initial purchase. They are going to be selling the bins to residents, and this account would be for the funds garnered from the sale in order to continue to purchase bins and sell them throughout the life of people wanting to compost.
I'll open it up to questions.
Question for Ed. So we're establishing the revolving account. Does that mean we have to put $5,000 in from the general funds, or are we just setting up?
It establishes a limit of expense not to exceed 5. So the seed money would come from the grant?
Well, actually,
Or-
the seed money would come from the sale of the compost bins, which have been purchased.
Right.
Using the funds from the grant.
Correct.
So as people come in and pay the 55, I think it's going to be $55 they're selling them for, that $55 will be deposited and will go into the potential revolving account. And then when we get to a point that we're out of bins, we will have enough to purchase what is the qualifying order. And then we would do that and the whole cycle would start again.
Thank you.
Okay, Chip?
Now, the money that's collected that goes into the revolving fund, that can be taken out and back without authorization from the town or selectmen?
How does that work?
That's what a revolving fund is, right?
Yeah, no, it can only be spent for the purpose that it's voted for, so it's
But does
strictly
it-
limited to compost bins.
Does it go to any of the boards before that money is actually taken out?
No. The authorization would come from, in this case, it would come from Adam's department.
That work for you, Jim?
Motion to recommend.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you. And Adam, if you could hang with us here. Article 23, to see if town meeting will vote to establish a revolving fund for the Department of Development and Inspectional Services, Building Inspections Division, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, 53E, and a half for the purpose of housing funds remitted to the town of Auburn as a result of ticketed violations to the building code as outlined in Mass General Laws, Chapter 148A, Section 5, with expenditures not to exceed $20,000.
So, the building department, or the building division, has the ability to issue fines when people do work without a permit or have other violations that are outlined within the building code. These violations are dictated by the BBRS. I believe they generally start somewhere in the $1,000 range and are not often used, but cited on a regular basis. This would be an account whereas when someone is ticketed, they pay that fine, it goes back into this revolving fund. Per the MGL outlined, it dictates what the use of those funds would be. Education, operation, and continuing education for the building inspector. So it's just a place to house the ticketed funds, and it can only be used for the purposes outlined in the MGL.
Currently, those funds just come back into,
They're currently going to the general fund. We received an opinion from legal counsel today. And so, I guess we need to seek some additional clarification, probably from the Department of Revenue, on the eligibility of these funds being deposited into a revolving account. And I think because of that, I think our position at this point right now would be to postpone this article indefinitely and come back at a later date once we get further clarification on, or determination from the Department of Revenue.
Okay. Any other comments on the, how'd the board vote? I mean, obviously, this opinion just came back today.
They recommended.
They did, I thought they had recommended on this. And I know there was actually plenty of.
So it will stay on the warrant, but the motion just would reflect the motion would state postpone indefinitely, so.
Okay.
Motion to recommend postponement.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. So, Adam, we're guessing we'll see this again in some other,
In some
morphed out
form or
legal
other.
language.
Yeah, as we get further clarification.
Some lawyer's going to get rich on rewriting this one, right? Okay.
Thank you.
just before you leave, actually going back to Article 22, and I know I have a solid waste meeting tomorrow, and I plan to ask him a question, but do you know if this has gone to the Board of Health about the compost bins?
I don't know. I know that the Board of Health has not had a big agenda recently, so I'm not sure when their last meeting was. I know myself and the Director of Public Health have talked about it several times, and I know that solid waste, I know you guys have been
Yeah.
working on it.
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't want to say it has or hasn't because I don't have the definite answer.
And really from the start, my biggest concern with this is bringing in animals out of the woods with compost bins being put in yards.
Most compost bins are sealed tight enough that, I'm assuming you've seen the bins.
I've seen the bins.
Generally, where the animal would be getting in is just going to be the black gold.
Yeah.
So I think that in most cases, sealed fairly tight, and you can avoid the animal issue. I think you generally get the animals more often with the New Hampshire compost bins, where it's some 2x4s and some fabric stapled together and just out back that somebody's keeping on a regular basis. I think generally the commercial bins are pretty good at keeping it low-key.
It's just always been my concern, even in the committee, it's, we get a lot of stray animals roaming around these days, and for
But
no
if-
good reason, but we don't need to attract them.
No, but a considerable, and this is something you folks will appreciate, a considerable effort for compost will have a significant reduction in solid waste, which you're aware of, and
Yeah.
and I think that's something that the town's working hard to control.
I was just curious if the Board of Health had any opinion on it.
No, I know the director doesn't seem concerned. I know that she's worked closely with Amy Sullivan on it, so she's pretty good about flagging stuff like that if she thinks it's going to be a problem.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other articles you want to step back into there? Okay, misses a couple of weeks and he forgets how we
I don't
operate.
like
You know, I'll tell you,
varmints.
man. I'm with you on that, though. All right, we'll move on. Article 25, see if town meeting will vote to appropriate the sum of $18,000, of which $3,000 is from sewer retained earnings, $10,610.96 from FEMA 2013 snow reimbursement account, 2112-9013, and $4,389.04 from general fund revenues to remove old alarm monitoring equipment from the obsolete in-track alarm system and install the necessary alarm equipment needed to allow for outside monitoring at various town buildings and the sewer office, and this is sponsored by the sewer department. Question, Kim?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Ed, how much is available in sewer retained earnings right now?
I think about 780,000, that was the last certification.
And why is there a recommendation for 4,300 from general fund revenues?
Because 3,000, if you take the 18,000, it's for roughly five public buildings, I believe. The sewer retained earnings would absorb their share only, which is about 3,000. The rest really is general fund or other non-sewer related departments. So we can only take out of retained
Only
earnings
use-
the value of what's needed to equip the sewer department.
And this 4,389 is not in our, what does that do to the balances?
Okay, there's roughly a $30,000 balance as a result of the action that the Finance Committee took as part of their recommendation. And I think we indicated at that point in time that we would not make a recommendation on any portion of that. Certainly, there are articles that are being requested that is asking for a sum of money, one being the Purple Heart Monument, one being this article here. I don't believe there are any others. So certainly, that's going to reduce that available balance if those articles should get approved.
And finally, excuse me, are you and the manager recommending approval of this 4,300?
Yes. Right now, our buildings are at risk. If a monitor should go off, I mean, we cannot update the equipment. It's obsolete, it's outdated. This would allow us to replace that equipment, and then we would have an outside vendor monitor our buildings. If an alarm goes off, there's a linkage that automatically they would send to our dispatch to send emergency vehicles over.
What's that, Kim? Chip?
I guess my question is, this was brought up, or this article is sponsored by the sewer superintendent. Is this mainly because some of it is coming out of sewer retained earnings, because we're talking about other departments?
This probably should have been co-sponsored. Jeff has in the past monitored this system.
Okay.
Updated the system to the extent that he could. So this responsibility was really under Jeff.
Okay.
All set, Jim?
Yep, thank you.
Ian, anything?
Nope.
Questions?
Nope.
You said 5 municipal buildings. This is outside the circle of the school's buildings?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion on this?
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Thank you. Okay, Article 26, see if town meeting will vote to appropriate the sum of $28,500 from sewer retained earnings to install a new exhaust fan at the Shore Drive Pump Station and to install new ventilation ductwork and exhaust fan at the West Street Pump Station. This is also sponsored by the sewer superintendent.
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
All right, I just have a quick question. Is there a code or regulatory issue that's driving this, or just basically, good business practice for what goes on there?
I don't know if there are mandated regulations. Certainly, I think Jeff, even through his capital, is trying to, these pumps are critical. If they fail, then we have a major problem. So they're rebuilt, they're updated, they're at times replaced, so he's just making sure that they're...
Oh, that's fine, and I know he stays on top. I was
Yeah.
curious if there was anything new that was pushing him to do
No,
this.
nothing new, no.
On that, okay, that's fine. Any other questions? Motion on this, please?
Yeah.
Oh, we motion a second, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so voted. Thank you. Okay, Article 27, see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate the sum of $30,000 from sewer retained earnings to install a new sewer grinder at the West Street Pump Station, also by the sewer superintendent. And, Bill, I don't think you need to describe what's going on with this. That came up the other night. Hopefully we're all... I was there. Got a little awkward briefly. Any questions?
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so voted, thank you. Articles 28 and 29, we don't have any dollar amounts on these,
Motion to hold till town
Not as
meeting?
of today.
not as of today.
The request went out.
Okay, no, that's fine. Hey, we know we've got to meet beforehand, and I'd rather wait for a number in there. These are both sewer related, so I believe the funds will be coming from sewer retained earnings, but I want to make sure we have a number in there. We have a motion to
Hold till town
hold
meeting?
till town
Second.
meeting. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. That's both Articles 28 and 29. Okay. Article 30, to see if town meeting will vote to set the following fees for the town clerk's office to go into effect beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st, 2014. Burial permit fee, $10. Dog license for male, female dogs, $20. Business certificate, $60. Business certificate adjustments and withdrawals, $20. Marriage intentions, $40. Affidavit and corrections of vital records, $20. Genealogy searches, $25. And this is sponsored by the town clerk from, I believe what she said, some of her fees had to have been acted on and they hadn't been, or she wasn't charging fees. So there's some miscellaneous reasons why she needs these fees to be approved by town meeting. Kim?
I have a question. Are these the current fees for all these things or are they
Increases.
increases?
I'm trying to remember.
I'm trying to remember too.
Some are increases, and some, they were being charged, but they didn't have town meeting action, so she wanted to get that done. And some were changes as a result of state law. They had to-
There was a mix of those, yeah. I don't know if that's good enough answer, Kim, but I remember it was a mix that was going on.
A smorgasbord?
It's easy for you to say. I've got some German in me, too. So do we want some more information on this, or are we comfortable with the fee schedule as set? Okay, do we have a motion then?
Motion to recommend?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Nice smorgasbord. Huh? Good one, Ed. Good one. At least you're not as tired as you look. All right. As I'm looking at Articles 31 through 36, I believe these are all street land takings. So I believe we normally defer on these, but I'll open up to questions first before I put myself to sleep talking to all this stuff. Kim, question, then Jim?
Can we defer on 31 and 32 to the planning board? Because they're public ways?
That's a good question.
Rather than the petitioner? Because those are citizens' petition, and,
Aren't the citizens allowed to speak on behalf of their
right,
warrant?
but couldn't we defer our recommendation, defer to the planning board on what they,
Well, the ultimate vote is by town meeting, so I don't even know if we can direct them somewhere. That's not deferring them, right? I get your
but
point.
don't we always, doesn't the planning board have to approve
I don't know.
streets?
That was my
Do we
question.
have the face of the planning board here? Adam?
I don't know that I'm the face of the planning board, but the planning board in the street acceptance process, they make a report to the Board of Selectmen during the layout hearing process. So they're generally, and depending on who you speak to in various towns and the planning community, they're generally reporting on their involvement in the street. Some boards like to make recommendations. Some boards prefer to just make a statement of, this is the facts, kind of Joe Friday-ish. So, without being the petitioner, I would ask that you not defer to the planning board, because I think it puts undue pressure and undue credence on their involvement in the process and on their recommendation for a specific street. The board does work hard. They do a background and they talk about it. I just think on a citizen petition, deferring to them puts them in a position where, as staff to the board, I'm not necessarily 100% comfortable with.
No, that's fair, and I will let Jim ask, but I believe on town meeting floor several times, we've at least, or town meeting has asked the opinion, your opinion on this, or planning board on certain road acceptances or
Sure.
not acceptances. So that's a pretty free-flowing meeting when it gets down to brass tacks on these kind of things.
And oftentimes, the questions come to roads that are new and have come through the planning board process, or roads that the board has been petitioner to. And in that instance, the board's clearly indicating their support, and I'm happy to give their reasoning behind it.
Okay. Kim, I'll let you follow up, and then Jim?
As a town meeting member, I want the recommendation of someone in government that knows whether we should be accepting these roads, because once we do, we own whatever problems are there. So,
But as
whether it's- whether
part of the
it's-
process, though, then you have the right to stand up on town meeting floor and request that. I guess that's all I'm saying
yeah,
from our
but
finance
if it's
committee.
not the planning board,
Mm-hmm.
like Adam is saying, that it's not the planning board, they haven't, who is it? Who is going to make a recommendation?
And we've had those awkward moments. I am sure, Bill, you'd like to add something to that.
I would also say the layout hearing, without it actually being laid out, town meeting can't take action. And my view on the process, and I didn't mean to jump on Bill's toes, but the layout hearing is the recommendation to town meeting. And the Board of Selectmen hold the layout hearing, and I think at that time, if there's significant opposition to that road being laid out from either the board or staff within town government, that's the point which that often comes out. I don't know if Bill has more to say to that.
Only that's, I was going to say the same thing. I think that over the past several years, I think we're trying to get to a point where we can make these decisions at the layout hearing or make recommendation. So we, the planning board, the town planner, myself, are reviewing these requests prior to the layout hearings, and I'll be in attendance to the layout hearing. I'm sure Adam will as well, to try to make any comments to the Board of Selectmen, so that if we have issues and concerns with it, pass that along to the board, and then they can decide whether or not they want to approve the layout. But I think we're trying to get those issues brought out before we get to town meeting.
Okay, my question then is, what's the process? What comes first, the layout or the acceptance as a public way?
Well, the layout, they'd have to accept a layout, and then it goes to town meeting to vote acceptance as a town road.
Which is,
So if it
so
is-
these two roads have already gone through the layout?
No, because these are
This is still
citizen,
private property, and I believe that's what was brought up Monday is,
Yep.
you know,
We-
I
this
guess
is
that's
eminent
what I'm
domain.
getting at, this is not,
through the chair, Rethel Street, Article 31, we're notifying the petitioners that a layout hearing will not be held for this particular road because there was never a layout established through the planning board process as a subdivision. There was essentially an easement that was granted over a private property for access to 2 or 3 houses, and that's still privately owned land. It's more or less a common driveway. So we don't see how you can hold a layout hearing to accept an easement over somebody's land to become a town road. So that one, my recommendation would be that, well, you can't hold a layout hearing. So that one, I don't see how you could accept it when the board won't be able to accept the layout. So I think because of that, they're not going to be able to accept it as a town road.
okay.
So the citizens petition is, they're starting a process, they just started probably in the wrong place in terms of what they need to do.
Right, and the others, we're moving forward with. I can tell you Article 32 was also a citizen's petition, and we'll have comment on that.
Has that one been laid out?
That does have a layout. That did go through the planning board, did go through the subdivision control process, as did Article 33 through, I think, 36. So all of those did have plans signed off by the planning board and went through the normal
So-
process.
So 32 through 36 are okay to accept?
I will say that at this point, I think we would want to make sure by the time we go to the layout hearing that we don't uncover any potential issues or concerns, but at this point, we haven't seen any reason not to accept those. But again, we have the layout hearing scheduled, and we want to make sure that there's, we're reviewing plans that are out there now, just to make sure that everything is in order.
Bill, is there going to be any further action on this or any of these articles prior to town meeting that we would have an opportunity to, well, we normally defer these anyways, but just, I guess, for public information? At the end of the
Well, it's
day,
going to be the layout hearing on the April 28th.
28th, covering
All of
article,
these roads,
Including 31?
minus Rethel.
minus Rethel, that one will not be, okay. And once again, our official position is to defer on the roadway acceptances anyways, but I believe this is good discussion for that, and it obviously comes for us every year. Jim, question on you, and then Kim, we'll get back to you. Obviously, you've got a little consternation there.
I guess my question was, has this gone through the proper process before it even gets to town meeting? And I think that that's been answered. I guess the question I have is, would this be deferred to the town engineer and not the planning board?
I think deferring it to the petitioner would be probably the most appropriate action. That way, if the town engineer didn't necessarily support it, it gives, I guess, the opportunity for the petitioner to make their case as to why it should be accepted?
I mean, the other, 33 through, 36, town engineer is the petitioner, so
Right.
I guess the one I have a question with, 31 hasn't gone through the process, so I'm not really concerned with that one. But 32 is a citizen's petition.
I guess through the chair, my question would be is, by you deferring it to the petitioner, you're not necessarily deferring their recommendation, you're deferring comment by the petitioner?
Right.
I-
I believe that's all, in these two cases, I think that's all we can do at this point in time.
I mean, as long as somebody's going to speak to it, since if we were deferring to the petitioner, it's a citizen's petition, I would just want to see somewhere on the town meeting floor that
We,
the town engineer speaks of Article 32 to...
through the chair, we did have one, I think, a couple of years ago, where it was citizens petition, and that citizen did speak on behalf of the acceptance. I would say that if there was nobody there, obviously either myself or Adam would stand up and speak to that article.
Yeah, that was the only one that really had, the 31 doesn't seem to have gone through the proper process as of yet. But 32 was the one I had the question on, is who do you defer it to?
Yeah, and in those past processes, it really seemed like, and I'm not a town meeting member, that somewhere along the way, the process had broke down. And I know a citizen can request to put something on the town, the town warrant, but a
Correct.
process has got to be, at least, that person, these people should be educated on what the correct way to go about this is, and that creates a lot of wasted time and awkward time anyways for town meeting, because they're not professionals that understand the process either.
And unfortunately, the articles here, these roads probably should have been accepted 20, 30 years ago. But 20, 30 years ago, they had part-time staff, part-time engineers, part-time planners, people would come and go, roads would be constructed, people buy the homes, the developer completes the roadway construction, and I think the people who live on the road believed it to be a town road, then 20 years, 30 years go by, and they start calling, we want our road reconstructed, and we look it up, it's a private road. It never got to that final step for whatever reason. And so at this point now, when we review the roads every year, we've been looking at which ones are in that situation, which ones need to be reconstructed, and so we can move forward with them, and then we get them on the books for Chapter 90 as well.
Right, because technically, we get more availability of Chapter 90 funds the more town miles we have, correct?
Right, we went through all the town roads about 2 years ago to update what the state has listed, and we now receive about 25,000 more per year on roads that we've accepted, but the state was not aware of it. So by increasing these town roads, although I will say, the liability initially is obviously more to reconstruct the road. I think actually Adam and I were looking at the numbers today, and I think there was somewhere around $1.30 per foot. So it's not a tremendous, I think it was just under $7,000 per mile per year. It's not a tremendous amount of money, but
Right.
we already maintain these roads to a certain extent anyhow.
Right. Kim?
Just Articles 33, the ones that you're sponsoring, Bill, at the layout hearing, do these roads meet the town's criteria already?
They were designed under the subdivision control law and constructed. I can tell you these were built back in the 70s, so they've deteriorated to a point, obviously, that they would over that time frame, but they were built in accordance to the plan at the time. So I guess the answer would be yes.
Because all of these articles have a financial impact on the town, acceptance of them, which is something
Absolutely.
that
We've
the Finance Committee,
discussed that in the billion years I've been on this committee now, in terms of, you could argue that 90% of all these articles, yes, you could find a financial impact on it, but in this case, the acceptance of these roadways is outside the purview of finance. It would be the engineers, the professionals constructing the roadways. Are they done to specifications? for fire trucks, safety equipment, et cetera, et cetera. That's why we defer on this. I totally agree. And, well, we just found out how expensive each mile of road is in town, so there's no doubt about that. And we're only deferring, I guess you could argue, just like you could say with the school budget, to the education professionals in terms of we can pick and choose a little bit on what we want to argue about, but in this case, we've got to let I'll call them the road pros, sorry about that, Bill.
Thank you.
You know.
Through the chair, just, I'd like to add, these roads are different than your private roads, that are gravel roads that never went through the subdivision control process. These are roads that were designed as a subdivision, they went through the planning board approved them, they were constructed with the intent of being accepted by the town. So these are completely different than your gravel roads that are private roads, and were always private roads, never with the intention of being accepted by the town back when they were built originally. They were built, those were typically built prior to the subdivision control law.
And as you said, we kind of had a lot of part-time professional people that a lot of this just didn't get over the finish line in terms of full acceptance.
And there's more out there, so we're trying to tackle the ones that we come across that are in dire need of repair.
You give us a reason to meet every May, don't you?
That's right.
That's nice, very nice, thanks. Okay, so, right now, like I said, we normally, as a finance committee, vote to defer to petitioner on what I would call all of these, Articles 31 to 36, and that's including citizens petition, the DPW director and town engineer. Do we have a motion on this?
Motion?
That'd be to defer it?
On all of them?
Yes.
This would be 31 through 36?
Take 31 separately.
Sure, that's fine. Why don't we just continue in that vein and say for Articles 32 through 36? Ed,
Yes.
a vote to
Second.
defer?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. And we'll go back to Article 31. Kim, comment on what you want to do with this?
I'm gonna oppose if you're, I think we should recommend to pass it by. Or postpone indefinitely, whatever because it doesn't even meet the,
I don't think we can postpone a citizen's petition. I think
The board voted not to recommend it.
yeah, you may want to,
right, I make a motion that we not recommend.
Second.
I'm not comfortable deferring to
Oh,
the
that's fine.
petitioner, because it implies that we have no problem with it, and I have a problem with it.
No, that's fair, that's well thought out. We have a motion and a second. Any further comment on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Thank you, Kim. That was a good way to deal with that. Article 37, and I believe this is our last article. Bill, I gotta hand it to you. Wayne's only got one article for us? I mean, well, you know, did he lose a bet to you or
he's
something?
holding back till fall.
Oh, all right. Okay, no, that's fine. Article 37, see if town meeting will vote to amend the balance of the appropriation approved under Article 17 of the May 123, that's 2003, annual town meeting from the expendable trust / cemetery perpetual care account, $1,025 for replacement windows in the cemetery office building to tree removal, or act on anything relative thereto. Bill, if you give us just a quick on that, I know Wayne had done a nice job of explaining things Monday.
The two things. One, the windows were replaced several years ago, so, and I believe town staff assisted with that work, so there was some funds remaining in the account, the perpetual care account. And we're at a point now where we need to look to start expanding the cemetery, and there is land in the back of the cemetery that we'd like to start working on some of the grading, but there's a large tree and then a small, I believe, a smaller tree that need to be removed, and that's what this warrant article is for, is to get the tree out of the way, taken down by professionals, and allow us the ability to go in there and do some grading.
I'm going to ask an awkward question. We have acquired that land?
This is actually,
Or is that
yes,
land
it's
we
it's
had
land
owned
we already
anyways?
own. It's in the back end of the cemetery,
Okay.
back left.
Any questions or comments? Ian?
We're amending the article, but my understanding is when we amend it, we can only reuse the money or finish the money on something that has the same intent. So in other words, if we're looking at taking it from, for windows and then putting it to tree removal, that doesn't sound very connected.
I don't know if that necessarily is the case with the perpetual care account funds,
Okay,
the CIP.
It has to be cemetery-related.
that's it, so
Yeah.
it just covers, all right, thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Motion to recommend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted.
Thank you.
Great. Bill, thanks for your time. Much appreciated. That's all our articles. We've got one more transfer, or one more set of transfers. This is under the assessor's office. Transfer from the abstracts account, and that present balance of $120, all of it to be used for map updates, and this is to cover a $200 increase. There was $120 in the account. Actually, there's a second transfer also for map updates for miscellaneous supplies. I'll accept a motion to take these two transfers as one.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you. So what we're doing is we're covering a $200 cost increase for map updates from the abstracts account, and we're taking 80 from the miscellaneous supplies account, leaving $40 left in there. Any questions or comments on this? Do I have a motion?
Motion to
moved.
approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you. I appreciate the hard work that wraps up our budget and town meeting warrant process, except for those items on hold. What time? 7 o'clock is town meeting?
Yes. Do
All
you
right.
want
So,
to schedule a meeting?
yeah, we should have a meeting prior to cover these open items. I guess the question is how much time we'll need to go over them.
You sure you don't want to meet next week?
I'm pretty darn sure, and I've got a lot of agreement on the board here. Get anything to say to that?
So moved.
Okay. How about 6:30? I think we can cover what we need to do in a half an hour, assuming we have numbers in front of us. So we'll meet at 6:30 on, what's that, Tuesday, May 6th? Good way to keep my golf score down, keep me off the course. Okay. Any other comments, questions, or anything regarding process? We don't have a reason to meet before then, do we, Ed? Unless transfer, something emergent
No,
comes up,
nothing.
and give me
No,
a
I think
call.
we'll be fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thanks, everyone.